We're now going to turn to the last speaker of the night, Louis Goldberg. Louis Goldberg is a third-year student of history and politics studying at Robinson College, as well as perennial floor speaker. He won the right to speak through open audition. Louis, you have the ears of the House.
You're going to have to excuse my voice also, although it's nothing to do with any kind of rowing. You'd never catch me in a boat. Unfortunately, I always sound like this. So, if you want to interrupt me with a POI, feel free. There are 30 miles of wall in Belfast, separating mostly working-class Catholic and working-class Protestant communities. These 97 walls and the hatred, trauma and deprivation behind them concern me a lot more than the checkpoint-free open border between the Republic and the North. Sectarianism needs to be solved before we can have a united Ireland. Annexing the North into the Republic when half the population just won't accept it isn't a good idea. And Northern Ireland will continue to be Irish, regardless of what state sovereignty it falls under. I love Ireland so much that I'm glad there's two of them. If Unionists want to insist in their lovely Irish accents that they are absolutely, most certainly, definitely not Irish in any way, shape or form, not one little bit Irish at all, let them. Let 1,000 blossoms bloom, as far as I'm concerned. Unionists, quite possibly, are more British than any Brit actually living in Britain. If you find yourself on a street saturated with Union Jacks and murals of the King, you're not in Britain, you're in Northern Ireland. And if the flags are Israeli, you're not in Golders Green, you are still in Northern Ireland. A bit like the people of the Falkland Islands, the Loyalists and their idea of Britishness is isolated, a little bit stuck in the 1950s. My challenge to Alex Burkhardt is that if you were a true conservative, you'd be sitting on the other side of that floor. For a conservative Britain with a strong sense of Britishness, we need a Pied Noir-style flight of hardliner loyalists to the mainland. They could be our stern policemen, our stern headmasters, and our evil lollipop ladies. And they would instill upon us strong Protestant values and teach the English, Welsh, and Scottish how to be properly British. However, I will leave this suggestion with you for the minute, for I have different political dreams. The great... Yes?
If you look at the Irish Times North-South polls, over 60% of people in the Republic are willing to change their institutions in order to accept Northern Ireland. When Craig said the Protestants state and Protestant people, he was applying to a Catholic state and a Catholic people. But that has changed clearly now. So can we agree that in a united Ireland, there would be acceptance of the people in Northern Ireland that would lead to ameliorating those sectarian tensions much better than the divided half-state that we have now?
I fear that even if the Republic did fully accept the Protestant community would not be, or at least a substantial enough portion of the Protestant community would not be happy with being under Irish sovereignty, and it would bring back sectarian violence. The great Republican leader, James Connolly, who was executed in the Easter Rising, wisely said that if you remove the English army tomorrow and hoist the green flag over Dublin Castle, you will, unless you set about the organisation of a socialist republic, you will still be under English rule, under the rule of her landlords, financiers and capitalists. Now today... Yes.
If I may. Didn't James Connolly also say that if Ireland was partitioned, which is what happened, that there would be a carnival of reaction, of reactionary politics and sectarianism, and that in fact James Connolly was in favour of a state in which was united and didn't have these problems?
Fair enough.
Sorry, I was a bit harshly done. He's a good guy, sorry.
Sorry. I haven't got enough of a bibliographic knowledge of James Connolly, so I'm just going to carry on. But I love your enthusiasm. It's beautiful. Today, capital is more global than English. The Republic is not ruled by the same greedy British financiers who caused the famine and the evil landlords. It's ruled by a handful of American multinationals whose crumbs of tax evasion form the basis of the economy. This corporatist structure is safeguarded by the fake choices that... Wait, let me just finish this. This corporatist structure is safeguarded by the false choice that Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael provide at the ballot box. We might as well have elections every 4 years between Ant and Dec. Thank you.
And you make that point, but you make it sound as if the poor Irish people are, only scraping for crumbs, and yet the poor sections of Irish society are doing better than the poor sections of English society.
That's true. I'll get on to that. Don't worry. Let me put that there for a moment. Yes.
Fianna Fáil, not Fianna Fáil.
I call them Fianna Fáil because they fail every time. My natural sympathies are rather Republican, and there are certainly things to be proud of in the Republic. Its support for Palestine being one of them. Ireland has performed an incredible turnaround on social issues since the 80s and 90s. In our parents' generation, when they were teenagers, condoms were still illegal and they had to be smuggled across from Britain. Father Ted was shocking television that couldn't be aired on any Irish networks. And nowadays, Graham Linehan's anti-trans tirades are much more controversial than his mild mockery of the clergy. In 2015, Ireland was the first country to legalise gay marriage by a popular vote. This was celebrated by crowds, with Gerry Adams, the IRA leader, embracing a drag queen called Panty Bliss. In 2019, Ireland finally legalised abortion a year ahead of the lagging North. In those 14 months, that might have been a very compelling argument for a united Ireland. And even though Ireland's GDP is enormously misleading, Ireland has escaped some very desperate poverty. Nonetheless, I do not think that a united...
On that point, is it not the case that the median full-time wage in the Republic of Ireland is so much higher than the median full-time wage in England that it's actually closer to the London median wage? So why wouldn't we want to just be, part of a London-style economic hub rather than some sort of English province?
Dara, how much does a sandwich and a pack of crisps cost in Dublin? How much is rent in Dublin? It's one of the most expensive cities in the world. It's ridiculous. And it's partly because there's too much false capital floating around the Republic of Ireland's economy. So that's my answer to that.
Don't worry.
Thank you. A united Ireland, I don't think, can solve Northern Ireland's economic problems. If the wealth from Ireland's paper tiger economic miracle cannot reach Donegal and Sligo, there's no way it can be reaching Derry. So I don't mean any specific offence to Derry. It's just the first that came to mind.
We can sort of load outside.
No back and forth, please.
Okay. Ireland is already too big of a country to be reliant on its current economic model. A tax haven with nearly 6 million people, that's ludicrous. It's sort of Bermuda blown up. Sorry, yeah. Do you want to say something?
I'll make the point. I mean, the tax haven, this is a question to work. The tax haven allocation is a very legitimate one, but is it not the case that Ireland, now part of the BEPS Treaty, the OECD BEPS Treaty, now has the same rate, 15% rate, which is a global minimum, and also these so-called tax havens, and they are a little bit tax haven, they employ hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, a tax haven is a little office in Bermuda with one guy in it. It's not, a semiconductor plant employing 10,000 people outside Dublin.
And to be fair, 15% of Ireland's workforce is employed by multinationals. Ireland has managed to get quite a bit of wealth out of it, but it is really struggling to spread beyond London, beyond Dublin. Yeah. Yeah.
And how is regional wealth inequality doing in the United Kingdom?
Bad. Right, I actually am going to have to make some progress now. I did say you could interrupt me, but I have to make a little bit of progress. It is important to recognise that injustices were committed by the British against Ireland for centuries, and that continued right up into the 1990s, well within living memory. Unlike the Scottish pretenders, the Irish actually were colonised and oppressed. Oh no, he's gone now. Yeah. Scotland partook in the settlement of Ireland. It partook in almost all of Britain's colonial projects, and now they like to say, oh, we were so oppressed by the UK, we want independence. Yeah?
Some research on the Highland clearances before you make claims like that.
Do you know who committed the Highland clearances? The Lowland Scots, not the English. So I can't get too hung up on the Scottish issue. It's a personal gripe of mine, and we can talk about it outside. It is... Oh, 1 minute, bloody hell. Okay. It is outrageous that it took until 2010 for the British government to apologise for the Bloody Sunday massacre. We must also remember the 5 techniques of modern torture developed by the British forces during the Troubles. The stress positions, sleep deprivation, the deprivation of food and water, etc., blasting of white noise. The British taught these modern torture methods to the Brazilian military dictatorship, and it became known as the English method. The clinical precision of this dystopian postmodern torture removes excess hazards and masks the barbarism of torture. It's a curse upon this world, and it has its roots in British rule in Northern Ireland. However, in the post-Good Friday Agreement era, Britain no longer plays the role of a colonial power in Northern Ireland. It is a peacekeeper, not a very competent peacekeeper, between 2 hostile ethno-religious communities. And I'm not interested in fighting nationalist battles. I'm interested in fighting systems of violence and economic exploitation. Irish Catholics were historically dispossessed of land by English and Scottish settlers. They have been discriminated against by employers. Be quick. They have been discriminated against by employers, by trade unions, by the state. However, the industrial jobs that the comfortable Protestant working classes once enjoyed are disappearing, and the Catholic middle class is expanding. But while sectarian inequality is falling, general wealth inequality is rising, and this calls for a non-sectarian leftist politics which puts aside issues of national identity. And I'm not theoretically against a united Ireland, but I see the project as a nationalist distraction and not a fight against imperialism. There is a delicate balance which allows a borderless Ireland while Northern Ireland stays part of the UK. People in Northern Ireland can choose to have British or Irish citizenship, or both, as I do. And Northern Ireland does not need to join the tax haven republic to be culturally fully part of Ireland. A united Ireland will not heal the wounds of the past. It will likely reignite the conflict. While most do not want this, I fear that some consciously or subconsciously desire this. Their sense of personal and communal identity is bound up in the Troubles. And this is completely understandable, but the human tendency to repeat trauma needs to be resisted in favour of healing. There is a Northern Ireland beyond sectarianism, and I'm not sure that a Northern Ireland, at least in the meantime, is the way toward that. Not now, at least. My grandmother's anecdote from primary school in 1930s Belfast could sadly be from today. A girl asked her, "Are you a Protestant or a Catholic?" And to my grandma's reply, "I'm Jewish, actually." The obvious follow-up question was, "Well, are you a Catholic Jew or a Protestant Jew?" I'm not sure how my late grandmother replied, but I think she was a Catholic Jew as a result of all her guilt that she quite strongly felt. Chucky Allah, our day will come, but the more important thing to ask is, what does the day after look like? We all enjoy a bit of theatrics, a bit of flag flying, some crowd celebrating military processions, the people storm the Winter Palace. But what matters is the morning after. What matters is what happens when the dust settles. How does it change life for ordinary people in Northern Ireland? Thank you.